G'day. Thought I'd take a moment to let everyone have a bit of a look at an interesting debate that we've got going on at the moment in the renewable energy area. That is the one of electric vehicles. Now, are they the saviours? Are they going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Now, I've got pros and cons on both sides of the argument from my point of view, both personally and professionally. But I want to have a chat about the professional aspect, the electrical trade aspect. Now, behind me here is just one of many power poles. And although this one's a little bent, twisted, and starting to break up a little bit, it's one of the better ones. There is a lot of our national infrastructure that is in a lot worse condition than this. So what happens when this kind of infrastructure gets left for another decade? Because I can tell you from the track I just walked up, and I'll show you some on the way back, it's going to be very difficult to replace this one pole. And there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of older poles on the national infrastructure line that is providing power to everybody's homes. And so what happens when this stuff starts to fail? Now, it's all well and good to say let's go electric vehicles, but what we're going to do, inadvertently, is put a lot more load on the actual wire section of the infrastructure. Let's just say that we go and add one electric vehicle to every household in the next 10 years. Now, I know that there are already some states in Australia that are talking about mandating that you won't be able to buy an internal combustion engine. In the coming years, there's going to be, obviously, I dare say there's going to be mandates put on retiring old internal combustion engines, making the forced move towards EVs. Now, in a perfect world, the EV market could go really, really well. It could do some amazing things. The problem I have with it is that we're jumping the gun, because we're going to double at least the average household demand for electricity, because not only have you got all of your electronic devices, you've got your computers and your gaming consoles and your everything else that's going on, your electric cooking, your air conditioner, all the other stuff that we've come to just expect as normal in a home these days. And we're going to double that by putting an electric vehicle on there. But nobody's talking about fixing the poles and wires, because how are we getting the power there? If we double the load on every home, what's happening to the national infrastructure? And so obviously this is an area that we're seeing a lot of potential issues coming up, and we're already seeing the beginnings of those issues where our national grid is not coping in the peak of summer. Thankfully today's pretty grey and miserable and cold, so not too many people are running their air conditioners flat out. But when we hit the middle of summer and we hit those mid 30 to high 30, low 40 degree days in some places, people have got their air conditioners going because it's getting pretty hot, and we've come to rely on air conditioning. We're getting, we've seen it before, networks send out messages to say, please limit your air conditioner usage because the grid's not going to be able to handle it. We're seeing issues where sections of the grid are going into blackout, which half the time I think could be failure. The other half, I believe, is being switched off because they simply don't have the supply to meet the demand. Thus the letters saying, please limit your power usage in the peak of the hot summer's day because we can't cope. So what happens when you go and add an electric vehicle per household onto that system? Because I don't see where the budget is coming from to go not only make sure all the poles are in good working condition, which is going to become an increasing issue over the next decade, but the wires, the transformers, the transmission lines. If we're doubling the load on every house, we basically need to double the capability of the transmission system. Where's that coming from? And before everybody jumps in and says, well, we're going to fix it with wind and solar, understand that if you're a residential customer, even if you've got a commercial solar farm, you're still relying on the poles and wires to transmit that power around. Solar is really just a discussion about where the energy is coming from. We've still got to get it to the homes. So we're back to the infrastructure question. If we're going to look at putting infrastructure locally on your home so that you can run your electric vehicle, well, now we've got another issue. Your average Tesla is running around about a 90 kilowatt hour battery bank. In the southern areas of Australia, in winter, you're looking at about, take the size of your PV array on average, times it by 2, and that's your daily production on average. It's a very average figure. So that tells us if you need to put 90 kilowatt hours of charge into your EV, you need a 45 kilowatt solar system on your roof on an average day. So that's not taking into consideration the terrible weathers like today and it's starting to rain. It's not taking that into consideration of going, how am I going to provide charge to my electric vehicle on those days? So if you have a look at a 45 kilowatt system, that generally wouldn't fit on most people's blocks of land, let alone the roof of their existing home. So where are we putting the solar to run this? When we talk about wind generation, again, all the wind farms are relying on these networks to transmit the power. So there's a lot more of a discussion to be had around what we're doing with EVs. I think they could be a wonderful thing, but I think we need to make sure we don't put the horse before the cart, so to speak. So, worth a discussion. Let me know your thoughts. Where do you think we're going with the EVs, and where do you think the issues are going to start to plague us, and how do you see that affecting you in your day-to-day life? I'd love to know what you think. Drop it in the comments. I'd love to start a discussion about it. All right, everyone, I'm going to hike out of here because it is starting to rain, and while skin is waterproof, it just gets uncomfortable. All right, we'll talk to you all later.